Hello, my name is Mitchell, and this is suggesting a custom methodology for the Real World Racer game project that we completed at the end of 2018. In the game, you're able to go anywhere in the world and create a racetrack, set a track record, and challenge your friends. For example, you could go to New York, Times Square, and make a racetrack that takes you around the area of the city, or you could even go to the North Pole, anywhere in the entire world. The game was developed by the Real World Racer team as a part of our games course at AIE. It took about 5 months to complete. There were 6 team members. 1 game designer, 3 programmers, and 2 artists. George, the game designer, also was fairly skilled in programming due to a previous programming course he took. So in actuality the team had 4 programmers. This was a real help because the project was very technically advanced in terms of the software used. Our 2 artists were very skilled and had a great sense of design for our particular art style we chose. The colors, imagery, and 3D models that they created were always of high quality. The art style was quite simple, with a focus on low poly models and a simple art palette. The programming was quite a bit tougher. This is also why having 4 programmers really helped. The game engine we used was Unity 3D. All of the programmers were familiar with the engine. We also used a third-party add-on for Unity called Mapbox. Mapbox allows the users to generate the 3D world geometrical terrain of anywhere on Earth. This way the player can explore the whole world and make tracks to race. The methodology trend of the project was, if I had to compare it to something, Kanban and Scrum. Kanban because Trello was used throughout development, and Kanban's task list format is very similar to Trello's. And Scrum because we did formal stand-ups at the start of each contact hour session, and we would go in a circle and talk about what our goals were for the day. The discussions every morning would reveal issues and help us all better understand the current state of development, as well as we would discuss who would maybe take a different task than originally planned. Suggested custom methodology. For the project, if we were to do it again, I would suggest the my custom Kanban extreme programming methodology. This is because Kanban has the task layout method that Trello used, and it was quite good, whilst using XP's structure to solve complex programming issues. But why mix 2 methodologies? Why not just choose a single one to be for development? Well, because RWR, Real World Racer, was a previous project that I'm suggesting this methodology for, and because I was involved in the project, I can say for sure that the method we used was not optimal for development. At the time we were all still new to game development and such, and thus in general we couldn't develop the project in the most effective manner. In fact, we didn't even use any methodology at all. We just happened to be following a sort of trend along with Trello. The development lifecycle of my suggested methodology. The planning stage is mostly the Kanban side of the methodology mix. XP doesn't have great documentation standards, and this is one of its weaknesses. This is also why mixing with Kanban helps it out. Kanban will be used for its task layout method. We will use Trello as it is free and easy to use. Physical Kanban boards are okay, but when the team is not always in class with each other, using Trello would be optimal, as it is online, accessible through a PC or a smartphone. During the planning stage, we'll also agree on what design and technically oriented aspects of the game will be included. The GDD and the TDD will be started to be worked on, and quality assurance documentation will be started as well. A test strategy and a test plan will be included. Since the development back in 2018, I can say for sure we had too much documentation. Only having a couple integral documents can save time that elsewhere, such as programming or art or design, would be wasted. Defining requirements. Again, Kanban will be the choice here as it defines to include some documentation. XP is no good in this aspect as it has light documentation standards. This is another reason I believe that combining Kanban and XP is a good fit. We'll use Kanban's task list format to set up preliminary tasks to show to the customer. This is how we can show what will be included later in development, or just give like a sort of structure at the service level. We will also have prepared the game design document and the technical design document to the spec that was defined in the planning stage. Developing the project. This stage of the software development lifecycle will greatly be influenced by XP as its ability to develop code well. The project is very technical and thus XP will be a great fit. We were unsure of how to use this technology to the best extent back when we did it the first time, but now it will be much simpler. Unfortunately, both Kanban and XP don't have great documentation standards when it comes to testing the project, so that's why we have the two documents mentioned earlier. This is why I believe it's important to make sure to maintain and use testing and quality assurance documentation. I'm sure the team leader along with the programmers can agree on proper testing for the more technical aspects of the technology. Deploying the product. Deploying the project is an integral part of project development. We found that getting a fresh set of eyes on game builds served as a great opportunity to find bugs that us programmers wouldn't have otherwise. With all that said, I believe regular deployments and testing is very important. Deploying the project for launch will be focused using Kanban side of the mixed methodology. We programmers shall look at all the completed tasks and ensure they are in fact completed, and we will use a pre-launch build to test this. Responsibilities and roles of the mixed methodology. The project manager. The project manager ensures that the team is engaging in work and ensures that the quality of work is up to par, maintaining documentation and having the other relevant team members maintain their documentation also. To always keep a clear understanding of the objectives and tasks in mind, having a clear understanding of where the project is in time is one major aspect of a project manager. Having a good understanding of all the tools and technology that is being utilized, such as map tools, such as Mapbox or Unity in our case, perhaps even Visual Studio for code development. And just in general being a good team leader and having resolve, thus being able to direct the team towards the goal effectively. The product designer. This role would be also allocated to George, the designer. He would have to work closely with artists and programmers to figure out what can be implemented in terms of design. But due to the fact that the team only has 6 members, I believe some of the design can be delegated elsewhere. For example, the game designer, George, can and should design most of the game himself, but can accept input from us, other disciplines, programmers and artists. But with this project this small, the programmers should probably, for an example, define the number of not the number, sorry, but how the cars feel, how they steer, brake and accelerate, boost, whereas the game designer would define how many cars there should be, and the fact that like one should be slow and heavy and one should be light and nimble, and then the programmers would take that into account and do the nitty-gritty parts. The artists should take into account what George has said in terms of game design and in regards to art style, and subsequently create a mood board for each aspect of the game. The designs of vehicles should be left up to the artists ultimately, as this is their discipline and they know what they're doing, so let them design the art. The market expert. The market expert, his job is to ensure that the brand development is efficient and the target audience is engaged. Since this project is only a student project and the target audience is only the teachers who are grading the project, the role is really not needed that much, but we still have to produce marketing material, brochures and presentations as such. This will be George's job also as game designer and project lead. The artists can also input their art style into the presentations to make it look more engaging. And neither Kanban or XP will be required to guide this part of development, as it is not really either of their strong suits. The architect. The architect's job is to stay in contact with clients and project managers so that they can communicate to the team effectively. This really helps to create initial design documents to portray the feel of the game in early stages of development and planning. But also, like the previous market expert, the architect really isn't needed either, but this is what George would do as well. Production phases. The pre-production phase. During this phase, the planning is the main focus, as well as design and concept development. Initial documents are created and some preliminary tasks will be created using the Kanban board, but XP will not be utilized yet. Documents to show the rough estimates for timings for the major aspects of scope will be created. Develop an overall model. In this phase we further develop the documents such as the game design document and a technical design document, as well as other design documents. And the Kanban list will be filled out to the best of our ability. We will understand that the project is very technically driven, and thus it's inevitable to foresee all future tasks, as some may be realized during development. The feature list. At this stage, programmers work closely with the game designer to determine which and what features can be implemented. The game designer should pitch ideas to the programmers, and the programmers should communicate back to the designer to let them know what will be in their ability to implement. Production phase. This stage is at which features and functionalities start being developed. By using all the documentation that was created in the pre-production phase, and by following the methodology, we can start building the game, and thus development can really get started. Designing by feature. Designing by feature means to design the product from the available technology. In our case, we're using Unity and Mapbox, which allows the user to load in a geometric 3D landscape of anywhere in the world. But due to Mapbox being a third-party closed-source software add-on for Unity, it's not very easily modified. Fortunately, it is a very customizable add-on and did allow us to realize a lot of features and functionality due to its versatility. This is where XP gets to shine. XP will help the programmers develop the code most effectively, and it also requires testing to be done very frequently, which further increases code resilience. Building by feature. Building by feature is a technique that we employed during the development of Real World Racer. We found it very useful that once we added any feature such as like a car boosting or drifting or accelerating or braking or changing, we would have a fellow student come over and test it. They would provide useful feedback and we would update based on that. It has to be remembered though that not only using students was the goal, we would also use team members as they would have more context about the project and would offer different advice. Feature demonstration and meetings. In the stage we discuss the features that have been added with the team. We know that getting outsiders to test the game is great, but also having the team members test the features is also a good idea. We then have an informal kind of meeting because formal meetings are too stressful and the team isn't large enough to warrant it. The post-production phase. After the main development phase, we release the game, seek feedback and perform reviews as to try to learn how to improve for possible future team endeavors. Release. We will release the game, include the final build version and some documentation as to how to use the game and learn the control scheme easier. Initiate open feedback. We will contact the player base and ask them to submit feedback based on their experience so we can better improve ourselves in the future. Testing and quality assurance. Quality assurance is an integral part of documentation required with any project. Without it, your project will be of low quality. The best way to improve your product is to seek the advice of a large group of different opinions. Quality control. We perform quality control to ensure the quality of the game. XP does a fantastic job at testing and controlling quality in general to do with the code. During development, XP demands that tests are created all the time and used constantly to review and improve the quality. This is the perfect environment for testing. In conclusion, I believe my Kanban extreme programming mixed methodology is a really good fit for this project. Due to the project's small size, we can afford to use a lighter version of the two methodologies put together. The lighter version of XP doesn't include the extra team comprised of the different disciplines such as project managers and programmers and artists. It just requires all the programmers to be constantly questioning each other's work. This ensures the best code quality while promoting members to communicate constantly, which is also good. Testing is very important, and XP ensures that regular feature testing is performed. This is with a very technical game. This is very important.